Last year, I made a joke video where I tried to figure out which Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks would be played by hosts at the conservative media company, The Daily Wire. It was entirely a joke that was inspired by a random thought I had and was made in a flurry of passion that only the stupidest ideas can inspire. I had a lot of fun making that video, and some people really seemed to enjoy it. So with that in mind, I am back once again to make very serious people who do very serious journalism play games made for children. And since the day that I'm posting this is in fact Pokemon Day 2024, it is only fitting that this time around I answer the question on America's mind: what Pokemon would the Daily Wire hosts use on their teams?
Oh, here we go again! Woohoo!
Like last time, let me start you off with my rules and methods so that we're all kind of on the same page here. I have 3 hard rules for this video and 3 soft rules for this video. First, in the hard rules, I'm only looking at fully evolved Pokemon for this list. While some of the smaller Pokemon might make a bit more sense for some of the hosts, my kind of roleplay scenario for this video is that these are all trainers one would encounter at the end of their journey, or even in the post-game. I'm not necessarily making competitive team compositions, but the Daily Wire hosts should be trainers who take their battling seriously. That means the strongest forms of their available Pokemon. Secondly, no legendary or mythical Pokemon. I want the teams to be capable, but I don't want them to be broken, and I don't have time to dig into the lore complexities that using legends and mythicals would bring. For keeping it simple, only regular Pokemon. Which brings me to point 3, no special categories. So your Ultra Beasts and your Paradox Pokemon, we're throwing them out. Some may not technically be legendaries, but I don't want to try to explain where Matt Walsh got a Pokemon from beyond space-time. Next, some soft rules. So you guys can kind of understand where my thinking was coming from. These are rules I was trying to avoid, but was willing to break if I had a decent enough reason. They are, first, avoiding type overlap. I'm not making gym leaders, I'm making trainers. Second, I'm avoiding starters. Starters can be really cool, but you don't generally see a ton of them on NPC teams, so I didn't want to go overboard with them. And finally, the one I actually did achieve, but was totally willing to break if I had to, no reusing Pokemon. I didn't just want to say everyone would use the same thing. It's boring, variety is the spice of life. With all that in mind, let's go ahead and get started on the placement. So, bring down the overlay.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, ipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
The shadowy leader of Clavanon and the great sage of the Daily Wire, Andrew Klavan requires a team that fits his particular style. So, right off the bat, we're going with Gumshoes. Andrew Klavan is an author, after all, and his most famous books are all detective and crime novels. You got great books like the Cameron Winter series, and the wonderfully titled Werewolf Cop. A detective genius like Andrew Klavan needs the detective-inspired Pokemon, so Gumshoes was an easy pick. The next pick is Drampa. Technically it breaks my avoiding typing rules, but like I said, I was willing to bend them. Andrew Klavan is the only Daily Wire host who is an actual grandfather, and he's written a lot about high fantasy before. So I kind of feel like a chill grandpa dragon is just a perfect fit for Andrew Clavin. Plus, according to the Pokédex, Grandpa is known to burn down the house of bullies, and I can't help but feel like Andrew Clavin would appreciate that.
Wait the f***, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Continuing the fantasy theme, two quick ones that seem to fit well. You've got Aegislash. In addition to being one of the best competitive Pokemon of all time, Aegislash's sword and shield design feels right at home in a fantasy setting, like Andrew Clavin's hit, Another Kingdom. We also have Hisuian Decidueye. I wanted just one of the ancient Hisuian forms on the team because Andrew Clavin is older than time itself. And since I already eliminated legendary Pokemon, that means a Hisuian form. One of the ones from the ancient past would be the next best thing. I felt Decidueye would work best because I think that Andrew Clavin would really appreciate a nice samurai movie, and Hisuian Decidueye is clearly based on the Wandering Ronin archetype. Next on the list is Galarian Weezing. While most people like to make jokes that Weezing looks like Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome, to me, he's always kind of reminded me of literary giant Charles Dickens. Plus, Galar is based on the UK, where Andrew Clavin lived for several years. So, the literary giant that is a Galarian Weezing, the UK hit, it just seemed to work really well. Which means to round out the crew, we've got Slowking. Ever since Pokemon the movie 2000, which I probably first saw when I was no older than 5 or 6, Slowking has always stuck in my mind as a wise sage kind of Pokemon. Which means to me, he's the perfect fit for the great sage of the Daily Wire. Candace Owens, the Tiger Mom of the Daily Wire, remains very difficult for me to pick for. She was hard in the Yu-Gi-Oh video, and she's hard in this one. That said, I think I managed to put together a decent lineup.
Nice try, thought!
I've been playing this game a very long time, and that means that I know if you're making a glamorous queen of a trainer, that trainer is gonna need a Milotic. It's canonically one of the most beautiful Pokemon in the game, and it's been used by in-game greats like Wallace, Nessa, and even Cynthia. Next up, we have the moms. Candace Owens has some serious, dangerous mama bear energy, and I think we can fill up her team with Pokemon that reflect that sort of thing. This obviously leads us to Kangaskhan. I'm not sure if she would use the absolutely broken Mega Kangaskhan, since it does use its kid to do battle, but bare minimum, regular Kangaskhan's gotta be on the team. And for similar reasons, I'm going to include Vespiquen and Nidoqueen. Vespiquen is the queen bee of the hive, which makes her a mother to all the comb bee, and Nidoqueen was the original Pokemon with gender differences before they even coded that sort of thing in the game. It's also one of the first Pokemon we ever see actually breed and have kids in the anime. So, both work really well for these sorts of teams. Next on the list is the topsy-turvy Malamar. I picked this one because Candace is really great at subverting my expectations. Every time I assume I know what she's going to say on an issue, or in an interview, or anything, she pulls something out of left field that I wasn't expecting. She's a gosh dang master of trickery, and I think she deserves a Pokemon that can fit that particular bill very well. Malamar turns everything on its head, so does Candace Owens.
Huh? Hold the phone. Malamar's the evolved form of Inkay, right?
Huh? Inkay?
Finally, to round out the team, I'm going to go with Magnezone. I know it kind of seems out of place, at least compared to the last several Pokemon, but Candace Owens does have some strong opinions about space stuff. So I assumed the UFO-based Pokemon would be a good choice. And as a bonus, according to the Pokedex, Magnezone may have been subject to mysterious shady science. And if anyone would know about shady science, it's Candace Owens. If you saw my Yu-Gi-Oh video, then you would know that Michael Knowles was by far the easiest person for me to pick. I had a deck picked out for him before I even decided to end up making the video. The same cannot be said for Pokemon. Believe it or not, despite the Pope himself signing off on the series, Pokemon does not have many clear Catholic parallels. So I'll have to be just a touch creative. First off, I'm going with Phalanx, mostly because Phalanx is based on the concept of the Roman Phalanx army formation, which means that Phalanx is probably the most Italian Pokemon we have, at the very least until they make a region based on Italy. I also went with Escavalier because its design is heavily inspired by medieval art, something I think Michael Knowles would highly appreciate. He likes the classics, and a classic knight definitely meets that vibe.
And I am willing to wield this Bible as a paladin wields a holy sword so that I might excise sin out!
It's also for this reason that I went with Hydrapple. Not only is he based on the obvious concepts of a Hydra and a worm in an apple, Applin is also based on the Lindworm from classic medieval lore, which I think Michael would appreciate from an artistic point of view. Plus, that means we have the knight and the dragon. Perfect parallels.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
Speaking of the arts, that was my primary inspiration for the next several picks on the list. Michael has probably the broadest range of artistic abilities of Daily Wire hosts, and I figured I could pick some Pokemon that fit those particular interests. So, rapid fire like, we've got Smeargle, the painter Pokemon, which hits Michael's painting hobby. We've also got the Charlie Chaplin lookalike, the one and only Mr. Rhyme, freezing the ground it dances on. This is a pretty simple one-to-one. They both like to dance. Finally, I knew I needed a musician Pokemon. There are a couple different options for this, like Kricketune or Primarina, but for the sake of this team, I decided to go with the musical master, Skeledirge. He may not play the instrument like Michael, but that's okay. I can only assume Michael could use a vocalist to go along with his musical abilities.
So we'll talk about all that and more today on The Matt Walsh Show.
I can't tell if Matt Walsh is the Daily Wire host who is the most likely or least likely to actually play some Pokemon. He is well known to hate anime with a fiery, burning passion, but he also has like a million kids, and odds are one of them's going to be interested in the game.
Mow my grass. Okay, Father. As long as I get a 6 pence allowance. 5 pence and no more!
Reflecting this fact, the first Pokemon I gave him is Charizard. No Megas or G-Max in here, just a plain old Charizard. It's simple, effective, and it's just the kind of Pokemon for a simple man like Matt Walsh. For similar reasons, I also wanted to pick Slacking. This thing has a massively high base stat total, and is also the ace Pokemon of the only dad you can have in the entire Pokemon franchise. Thanks, Norman. Speaking of dads kids in the family in general, Mousehold seemed like an obvious pick for Matt Walsh. I know Mousehold only has a couple of kids and Matt Walsh has about 600 and counting, but this is the point of Mousehold's signature move, Population Bomb. As a dad, I'm sure Matt Walsh also likely appreciates silence. Like the silence of moving into the deep mountains, miles away from any person or anything or anyone. Which is why I gave him the Yeti Pokemon Abomasnow.
Welcome to the Himalayas!
I also knew I needed a Pokemon that reflected the rugged man's man, build a house all by yourself persona that Matt Walsh projects into the world. So the construction Pokemon Conkeldurr seemed like a pretty obvious pick. He's not only physically strong, but has a strong understanding of proper construction technique. Something I think Matt Walsh would value in a Pokemon.
Look, John, it's red pine. They were gonna put flecked linoleum over this beautifully preserved naughty red pine. Most people in this world, John, are ass.
As for the final Pokemon on the team, I think we need something that reflects the Matt Walsh signature obsession with the cosmos. I thought about some of the various space-themed Pokemon, but Clefable, that's way too pink for Matt Walsh. Minior, that overlaps typing with Charizard, and Deoxys, it's a mythical, so I already eliminated it. I ultimately decided that it was probably best to keep it simple, and go with the basic alien Beheeyem. No need to get too complicated. Beheeyem is an alien from outer space, so gets a spot on Matt Walsh's team.
Welcome back to the comment section. I'm Brett Cooper.
The Gen Z darling of the Daily Wire crew and the dream of many a young man just stepping foot into political internet content, Brett Cooper is the only Daily Wire host who was actually born after the first Pokemon games came out. So, I set myself a little additional challenge with her. Since she would have hit the target age demographic for her first Pokemon game around approximately 2009, I decided to prioritize newer Pokemon, as they would probably be the ones she would have encountered first had she developed a far different level of interest in things when she was a kid. I'm looking at basically anything released after Pokemon Platinum.
Today I'm going to be trying my toughest Pokemon playthrough challenge yet. Can you beat Pokemon Platinum? That covers all the intro stuff, so let's dive in.
Given Brett's rural background and her love of the natural homestead vibe, Gogoat seemed like an obvious choice. And obviously, I'm also going to need a horse for Daily Wire's Horse Girl in Chief. Duh. I debated Galarian Rapidash or even just regular Rapidash, but my desire to stay to the newer stuff ultimately meant that I decided to go with something a touch more rugged. Mudsdale fits the back-to-nature vibe Brett espouses, and both the other horses kind of conflict with some typings for other entries down the line.
We get there when we get there!
Next thing I knew is that I needed a dog Pokemon. Brett is always talking about her dog, so she needs a dog on her team. And that dog would absolutely need Rough Green. I wanted to find a dog that would embody Brett's love of the crusty white dog, which was honestly a lot harder than I thought it would be. Few really fit. Growlithe is more of a Shiba, Yamper's a Corgi, Furfru's a Poodle. I ultimately narrowed down to Stoutland and Mabostiff. And ultimately, I decided that Mabostiff would be better because Mabostiff is a dark type, which is also known as the evil type in Japan. And everyone knows that crusty white dogs are evil.
And I can't believe that there is even one, but that is the creepy, disgusting world that we live in.
Next up is Alola Ninetales. Brett has been a snowboarder in the past, so an ice type like Alola Ninetales fits well. Plus, I knew I wanted something a bit more feminine, if we're being honest. Brett is big into promoting the feminine energy while maintaining your interest in more traditionally masculine activities. And I think the beautiful magic box that freezes people solid for trespassing on its mountain domain kind of fits that bill.
It's beautiful.
I also went with Rotom. Specifically, I think Rotom Heat is probably the best out of all of them, but I'll use every Rotom form to kind of fill this slot. Let's just say she switches them out as she sees fit. Rotom fits Brett's Gen Z-ness because of its ability to inhabit technology. And since it primarily inhabits appliances, I thought this would make sense with Brett promoting the homemaker lifestyle. I'm sure she'd love to bake in a Rotom heat. It just makes sense. Do the laundry in a Rotom wash. Store your frozen goods in a Rotom ice. It's just perfect.
It works. It just works.
To finish things off, we have Lopunny. And I'm going to have to ask you to stop. Stop it right there, because please stop. I know what you're thinking, and I need you to stop. You degenerate scum. Just stop.
Stop it. Get some help.
I'm specifically thinking about Mega Lopunny. Not only does it fit with Brett's active lifestyle, but Lopunny's kickboxing aesthetic means that it could kick my butt in the next Tuesday, which I can only assume Brett Cooper could also do.
Introducing Bent Key, an entirely new company from the Daily Wire.
As addressed in my Yu-Gi-Oh video, Jeremy Boring may not technically be an actual host at the Daily Wire, but he is still the boss, so you gotta include him. Plus, I want him to be my boss, so call me Jeremy, I can do this for you and take your money for it. Anyway, here's the team.
And here we go.
Our first member was really easy. It's the prankster Spike setter, a Klefki. This should be a really obvious connection, but in addition to being CEO at the Daily Wire, Jeremy also owns and operates Bent Key, the children's media streaming service. Bent Key is clearly a passion project for the man, so I wanted to include a nod to the company. And what better way to include a nod than with the Key Pokemon?
Hey, Klefki! I got a question for you. Can I use this key? Hey, knock it off, that hurts!
Continuing on with steel types, I also wanted to include Golden Go, because like Mansa Musa before him, sometimes a king has just gotta flaunt his wealth.
Don't you fucking know who I am?
Plus, according to some fan theories, Golden Go is the reincarnated spirit of the king from the Treasures of Ruins backstory, so it just kind of fits the God King aesthetic.
So I'm weak now?
No, my lord.
I could kill you right now,
I do know that, my lord.
Continuing on with the kingly aspect, there are two quick ones that I think fit the vibe pretty well. Tyrantrum is obvious, because not only is he a tyrant, he is a T-Rex, the perfect pet for a God King. Also went with Volcarona. Maybe it's because I played through Pokemon Black recently, but I've always looked at Volcarona as a very regal kind of Pokemon. You find in that hidden chamber under the Relic Castle. It's the ace of the Champion Alder, who you also fight right next to a Gashdane Castle. Volcarona is just a great Pokemon for a king like Jeremy.
You have been ignoring your king!
What is a king to a god?
And what is a god to a non-believer?
I know this one's going to be kind of an unexpected pick, but I also decided to go with Ludicolo.
Another round, extra shot, black as night, thank you, sweetie.
Jeremy is many things, but in his public appearances, he always comes across, at least to me, as someone who enjoys a good joke. I mean, after all, he did make the most triggering comedy of the year. He's jovial and kind of good-natured to the point that he's willing to make a highly successful hygiene company because he thought it would be funny. Someone like that needs a good, fun-loving Pokemon like Ludicolo. Our final team member is none other than Passimian, because after all, Jeremy Boring is not just a universally praised businessman, director, screenwriter, producer, columnist, and God King, he's also one heck of a coach.
Guys, this is serious. Sports can be your pathway to a better life.
Well, like yours?
Please don't steal my catalytic converter again.
I ask myself, don't care how you feel, man. If you want my pronouns, I'm the man who don't respect.
Let's look at the stats. I've got the facts. My money like Lizzo, my pockets are fat.
Rounding out the roster, we've once again ended up on the main man, Ben Shapiro, Dr. Dreidel himself. Without him, the Daily Wire wouldn't exist, and I'd probably be a lot less informed on major issues, and also a lot less angry at the world. But let's put aside my crippling underlying hate for our current political climate and make the man play some Pokemon.
So you wanna be a master of Pokemon? Do you have the skills to be #1?
First on the list is Golurk. This is really only because Golurk is probably the most Jewish Pokemon I can think of. For the uneducated, golems, of which Golurk is obviously based on, come from Jewish folklore, even appearing briefly in the Talmud, though not in the same vein as our traditional golem figure. The most famous golem story is from the 16th century in Prague, called the Golem of Chelm. Probably pronouncing a lot of things wrong today. If you can't tell, I love golems, and golems are Jewish, which means the Orthodox Jewish guy should probably have a Golurk.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chol niknei shel Hanukkah. Whoa! Do you like the Jewish Lord's Prayer?
The next pick for Ben is Primarina. Ben is a classically trained violinist. I thought about giving him a cricket tune to reflect this, but then I figured Ben's musical ability would best shine if given a vocalist to pair with. And what vocalist is better than one that literally has arias and operettas in its arsenal? I then decided to give Ben a Vikavolt, largely because Vikavolt is a very large gun in a relatively small package. It's 4'11", and about half of that is gun. That's almost 2.5 feet of gun. As a short king himself, I think Ben would appreciate a small bug that grows into a large bug that can shoot you back.
This type of .45 automatic pistol was designed by one of my tribe almost 400 years ago. Learning its use is a new Canaanite rite of passage.
I also picked a King Gambit for Ben's team. One, because Ben is the boss of the Daily Wire, alongside Jeremy, of course, and King Gambit is the king of his armies of Poniard and Bisharp. But also because King Gambit and the whole line is based on chess/shogi, an intellectual pursuit that I think Ben would appreciate. Plus, Kowtow Cleave can be devastating in a match where most of your team is defeated.
So first of all, you shouldn't say that with a straight face, because it's legitimately the funniest thing maybe in the history of mankind. It's ridiculous and silly and hilarious, and yes, we're very much for it. So yo, yo, yo. From Dr. Dreidel to you.
Coming up next is Snorlax. I'll admit that this one's honestly just because of the joke of it. It makes a really fun juxtaposition pairing Snorlax next to Ben. Ben is known for being extremely energetic and fast-talking and can go at a mile a minute. Snorlax is a gosh dang Snorlax.
Snorlax, a sleeping Pokemon. Snorlax wakes only to eat.
It doesn't sound too hungry.
There's just something really funny to me about the two working together, so that's what I picked. And the final member of Ben's team and the Daily Wire Pokemon lineup is Alakazam, specifically Mega Alakazam. Ben is regarded by many as a rather intelligent man, and he could probably use the most intelligent Pokemon out there. With an IQ of 5,000, just think how many facts Alakazam could store in that big old brain of his. Plus, not a single one would care about your feelings.
These are facts, and facts don't care about your feelings.
With that, we have all the teams set. Let me know which team you think would be the hardest to fight, and let me know what type of Pokemon you would pick for these guys. Also, let me know if you like this style of video, either for other famous Pokemon or doing the Daily Wire thing with other types of games. I personally really enjoy this. They're different and they're kind of fun to make. So with all that said, I hope you guys give the video a like and share, and I'll hope you'll check out my next video. See you then.